So we have TE and TM. So they're both different planes of existence type of thing. They are, one's vertical, one is horizontal. So they don't bother each other. They meet at the zero, which is the center of the Hall effect, which is basically a waveguide that will transpose your signal. So all you have to make sure is that it's all confined into one point. And that's what this does, is it goes to 0 point. Well, not 0 point, but almost 0 point, because the signal rides just on the outsides of the Planck, the smallest thing, right? So the signal is extremely small. So the smaller you go, the higher the frequency. So when you're falling into gamma rays, you're talking about a high frequency. And so it's basically plasma at that point. And so the plasma becomes a figure of extreme information, because the faster the frequency, the more detail you can put in. So once you have an infinite amount of frequency, then you have an infinite amount of information carrying capability. So that's what the situation is. And how do you transpose that into one medium and out of the other medium? Well, you can go 2D, and 2D can travel as a single plane, such as an electric. But the electric has to have a forward and a reverse in order to have a full circuit. So the Ouroboros represents that. You have to have an input and an output, and a load and a source, and that's it, that's all. You have resistance in the middle. Well, the Z is the resistance in the middle, which is basically the wormhole, that as soon as you hit space, you get confined into a single point, and that is a Planck point, and that point can be pointed to anywhere. So from a force transmission, you have the arrowhead that will point to a certain point, and then you cross into it as a wormhole, as you would through space. So you could communicate and keep in line precisely to yourself, because the energy source will suck its own source to source. So from black hole to black hole, but it's a part of you that is injecting yourself into the other. It's like a symbiotic arrangement. So we sink our tentacle into it, and we hold it. We hold it for a lifetime type of thing. So we hold the circuit alive. So it's a conduit, it's a plus minus conduit, and the hole in the middle is the zero. And the zero, well, it's just a function of speech, or a function of centrality, a focus, a singularity. And in a singularity, if you have one side, you have another side. Same as if you have the up, the down is assumed. So that's why it's always Z up, because the Z up factor can have the infinity of numbers, because the numbers of the Z line are prime harmonics, and they are confined to a single point, and that is the Lomonosov, or the center of every particle, and it's the Z up of the gyroscopic. So this mechanism is basically an antenna, or a directional laser Sagnac type of thing. They bounce off mirrors type of thing, but it's within the confines of a void. So as long as there is charge, there is a void. So the charge cannot touch each other, and the zero is the focal point. So it's like an eye of an eye. So the two planes are stuck within one plane. So it's one in, one signal in, electric type of thing, just the variance that will commute itself to a rocking chair, like a magnetic field becomes, and it splits into two parts, which is the high end and the low end of the Z. So the high side and the low side. So basically the positive and the negative will split in two to have the difference, because you can't have a wave without a rocking mechanism, which is a plus to minus. So they push each other back and forth. It's Adam and Eve, you know. They bounce. They can never touch, but they bounce the information at that 0 point. So at 0, they're virtually the same thing. It's the Ouroboros, the snake eating the tail. So it's the same thing. You're getting the same differential. It's the differential that matters. So as long as you have differential, then you have a rocking and you have a signalability. So when you're talking about microcosmic, galactic, cosmic energy into a single point, well, you have extreme capability, and you can transpose that information from one end to the other, but you're sending information, and all it is information in the end, because it's a variance, and the variance is your mind, and your mind is the oscillation of what you are made of. So that transposes itself across the universe and can land on Earth with a whole bunch of other minds that have configured themselves. Oh, I see that light over there, a lot of energy. I like energy. I go towards energy. And therefore you meet the Earth paradise type of thing. It's where everybody transposes their information into. So it makes a giant kind of database, but it's really a plane of existence. It's a paradise, and it's created by everybody. We're all aliens in the end, and the connection is just empirical. You know, you can't say that anything started as something until you've been that something, and you haven't. So what we have is a logo of everything that we have been and will be, but it's basically the same thing, because at the 0 point, both are resonating each other. They don't touch, but they do resonate each other. So there's two sides of the universe. There's the positive side and the negative side, and they're opposite sides, but they're both brains. The body is still a brain. It's still a thinking unit. It has feelings. It has its own characteristics. Be it that we are into human bodies, human forms, because we joined it as birth into a life, or it's all a creation, but it's not a. I feel that it's a logos that is humanistic, and there's always a wish for better, a wish for godness, and however that interprets. So through the 0 hole, we all meet, It's a big 0 hole. Everything is a 0, but the oscillation within that 0 is the plus minus, and that's the information, the rocking boat. So the oscillation is your mind, and your mind starts from 0, and the closest point is your alpha is what you can create, and what you can format as what your own body needs exclusively. So you're your own God. And so, yeah, it's back and forth. It's the Ouroboros.